Robin, Jody Wilson-Raybould's book is called Indian in the Cabinet, Speaking Truth to Power. In an excerpt published in the Globe and Mail, she details 2 conversations she had with Justin Trudeau just days before she resigned from cabinet in 2019. Wilson-Raybould writes, he used the line that would later become public, that I had experienced things differently. I knew what he was really asking, what he was saying. In that moment, I knew he wanted me to lie, to attest that what had occurred had not occurred.
I did not want her to lie. I would never do that. I would never ask her that. That is simply not true.
Saturday, Trudeau kept repeating the issue was picked apart before the last election, and it was, in the House, in the media, in committee.
I experienced a consistent and sustained effort by many people within the government to seek to politically interfere.
In August 2019, the Federal Ethics Commissioner found Trudeau had violated conflict of interest rules on the question of whether then Justice Minister and Attorney General Wilson-Raybould faced pressure to interfere in the corruption case against SNC-Lavalin. That fall, Wilson-Raybould ran and won as an independent. She's not running again now. Through it all, Trudeau's defense has remained the same.
I'm not going to apologize for standing up for Canadians' jobs. This case, it was making sure that we were standing up for thousands of jobs.
He evaded questions about the timing of the book release and whether it will affect his campaign.
And it's unfortunate to see how things went from there. And I carry the responsibility for much of it. But I can't let that slow me down.
His campaign certainly didn't slow Saturday, hopping from battlegrounds in Ontario to Quebec, but the release took up oxygen in a tight race.
Shocking, not surprising, because this is what Ms. Jody Wilson-Raybould had been saying for a long time.
Ms. Wilson-Raybould felt pressured to lie from the Prime Minister? That is completely unacceptable.
Wilson-Raybould declined an interview. Her book comes out next week, which means you'll likely hear about it again along the campaign trail, which can't help the Liberals. Robin?
Abigail Bimman reporting tonight. Police in London, Ontario have now laid charges after gravel was thrown at Trudeau earlier this week. He was boarding his bus during a campaign stop when the stones were thrown. 25-year-old Shane Marshall has been charged with 1 count of assault with a weapon. He was a riding president for the People's Party of Canada before being removed in response to the allegations. Conservative Leader Erin O'Toole finished up 2 days of campaigning in the Greater Toronto Area today. The Liberals hold the majority of seats in the region, and as our chief political correspondent David Akin explains, O'Toole's pitch to voters there is all about putting someone from the GTA in the Prime Minister's office for the first time.
Now is the time for a Prime Minister from the GTA.
In all its history, Canada has never had a PM from a Greater Toronto Area riding. But Erin O'Toole from the riding of Durham on the eastern fringe of a region best known by its area code, the 905, is bucking to be the first.
It's time Canada had a Prime Minister from the 905, from the GTA. It's time we had a Prime Minister who personally knows and understands the challenges facing our communities. Because I grew up here, raised a family here.
O'Toole, who was once a GO train commuter himself, is pitching support for big public transit projects like new subway lines and new regional rail projects.
His Ottawa knows best approach to housing, transit, inflation, crime, and healthcare is simply not working for GTA workers or their families.
For more than a decade, perhaps even longer, reducing commute times has been a top topic for all campaigning politicians. But O'Toole has not provided funding in the platform for the billions these projects would cost. And of course, their completion would depend heavily on a provincial government and local governments. Robin?
David Akin in Whitby, Ontario. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is laying out the cost of his campaign promises. He's the last of the 3 major party leaders to put a price tag on his platform. Global's Richard Zussman is here to break it down for us. Richard?
Robin, 9 days until Election Day, and finally, the NDP releasing that costed platform. And the promise from NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is that taxes will not go up for the middle class.
Wait a mic drop. It is the backbone of the NDP's fiscal plan. Tax the rich.
I'm proud to say that we are the only party that has a plan that will ensure that we are not going to put any extra burden on working class people, on the middle class.
The NDP, the last of the big three parties to release a costed platform from the Parliamentary Budget Officer. More than $40 billion in new spending and investments next year alone. A big part of paying for it, a wealth tax. 1% tax on every penny over $10 million an individual Canadian earns, forecast to bring in $10.9 billion next year. There is $14.6 billion in an excess profit tax coming in for companies who made more during the pandemic than before it, and billions more in capital gains and corporate tax changes.
It is a real path forward that's going to start asking those at the very, very, very top to start paying their fair share.
And this is where the money will go. Billions more for childcare, the Canada Recovery Benefit, employment insurance, and to compensate families for Indigenous children who were taken away from them after 2006. There's $68 billion over 5 years for new healthcare spending, including billions for dental coverage, a pharmacare plan starting in 2022-23, and a critical health workers fund.
I am proud to say we are the party that is offering the highest amount of transfers for healthcare. It should not be a surprise.
As for balanced budgets, even 10 years down the road, they're nowhere to be seen in the plan.
There's a path. And our path is that path to get to that point should be about increasing revenue, making sure that the ultra wealthy are paying more of their fair share like they used to. And we are the only ones laying out a credible path to getting to a position where we're in balance that doesn't actually help to people or put burden back on the same people that have struggled.
Now it's about selling the costed platform. Singh and the NDP will head through Ontario to hit a number of swing ridings starting on Sunday. Robin?
Richard Zussman in Vancouver.